Hey, what's going on, guys? First Sergeant V here, back with part 3 of our series. In this video, we're going to talk about things to watch out for and things to ask yourself while you're sitting in the seat or preparing to be a first sergeant. So, without further ado, let me go ahead and share my screen with you. Alright, so like I was saying, things to watch out for and ask yourself. So, these are just going to be some ideas, some things that I've thought about, things I've noticed as I'm going through the ranks. You may have different ideas, and that's okay, right? So if you have some other ideas, then make sure you leave that comments down below, and I'd love to hear from you guys. So my thoughts, right? So being a first sergeant is not for everyone. We all know that there's some leaders that should not be a first sergeant, but I think anyone can be a first sergeant. It's just you have to be able to adapt and change certain aspects in the way you actually conduct yourself. All right. So with that said, it takes a very special individual. You gotta be selfless. Humility in regards to others. As a leader, first sergeant needs to be a servant rather than a master, right? So you got to realize that you're there to serve others. All right. Most importantly, I think a first sergeant must be a passionate person that believes in what he or she is doing. All right. He must be willing to dedicate a tremendous amount of time to their people, their unit, and command. So one of the things that you need to work on if you are going to be a first sergeant, put in a situation avoiding conflicts, right? So don't be that person to avoid conflicts. So there's a good quote that I read: leaders do not avoid, repress, or deny conflict, but rather seize an opportunity, right? So you have to see opportunities in the conflicts, and I promise you daily there's going to be some type of conflict that you're going to have to solve, right? So leadership is also a fundamental when it comes to resolving conflicts. Bad leadership characteristic is avoiding responsibility to solve problems, right? So as a first sergeant, that's your whole purpose in life, is to help assist and solve problems. Bad leader does not offer answers when effective solutions. They cause misunderstandings and misguiding others, right? So as a result, the problems far from being solved are aggravated and they're actually blown out of proportion, right? So you got to keep a level head. Another thing on conflicts, whatever it might be, you must deal directly with the conflict, okay? That's very important. By not dealing with it or just hoping that it'll go away, a bad leader is just letting the situation fester and grow, like I talked about, right? They will still have to deal with it, but the time is morphed into from a small conflict to a serious situation, so you need to keep that in mind. Good leaders know that they can't make everyone happy, and that making hard decisions is part of their job description, right? So you're going to put in situations and scenarios where you're not going to be popular. It may not be what a soldier or a certain individual thinks that should be the outcome, but you have to look out for your organization and have to balance the standards and discipline and so forth. Talk about no self-development and self-growth, right? So I think that the worst thing a leader can do is stop growing professionally. All right. What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make, right? So that's a great quote. Life is the process of professional growth, and this concept should be more than just clear to leaders at all levels. So you have to continue to grow. I'm a firm believer if you become stagnant, your soldiers and your leaders and your surroundings around you will do the same. You need to watch out for that. You got to promote self-growth. Another leadership weakness is not caring about professional or personal growth. So even as a person, we're growing professionally and personal, right? So you need to make sure that we watch out for that. Let's remember, leaders motivate through their self-development and potential leaders. So what I mean by that is self-development. When you develop yourself, you're able to take that knowledge and pass it on to the future leaders and your soldiers in your unit. You're passing knowledge, you're passing the torch. All right. A bad leader will never be able to motivate his team to improve if he disregards the opportunities to grow and improve himself. Let's talk about being selfish and egoistic, right? A good leader is a person who takes little more than his share of the blame and little less share of the credit. I'm a firm believer that everything I accomplish is a direct reflection of my soldiers and leaders, right? So give them the credit they do. A leader is useless without his team. Just remember that. As a first sergeant, we don't have a job if we don't have soldiers and leaders, right? People is our number one priority. People is our job. Without it, like I said, you not be able to reach the objectives and goals or meet the commander's intent, right? So you have to be able to step out of your comfort zone. One of the most irritating bad leadership characteristics is to be selfish or have an ego, right? You got to keep yourself in check. Bad leaders like to blame others when things go wrong, aside from taking credit when things go right. They also encourage them to make decisions thinking only of themselves without considering the rest of the team. So you got to keep in mind that the decisions that you're going to be put in to place, or the things that you're going to have to decide on, you got to look out what's best for others, not just you. Let's talk about not being accountable, right? So leaders inspire accountability through their ability to accept responsibility before they place blame. That is an awesome quote. Like I was saying, leaders must take responsibility for their actions as well as the actions and performance of his teams. So when things go right, awesome. When things go bad, you gotta hold people accountable and you gotta hold yourself accountable, right? Another leadership weakness is not being accountable for decision making, right? So as leaders, we make decisions daily, right? Some decisions are gonna be good, some decisions are gonna be bad, right? But even with the bad decision making, you're still able to learn from that and draw from that and have a better outcome next time around. You're not always going to have the best course of action, or it may not always work all the time, and that's okay, right? As long as we're not making the same mistake twice. As a first starter, you're not going to know everything, but you need to reach out and have some type of platform or a group of battle buddies or something that you can collaborate and actually make decisions and see what worked for them before you actually bring the decisions to your commander and your leaders. Like I was saying, a bad leader does not hold himself accountable for his actions as he should, right? Don't blame others for the inconvenience resulting, all right? The attitude has a major negative impact on the company's culture. So when you're constantly blaming others, you're not going to get the productivity and the respect out of your soldiers. Lack of work ethic, right? So a leader is best when people barely know he exists. When his work is done, his aim fulfilled, then they will say, we did it ourselves, right? A successful leader is an example to others because of his passion, work ethic, and effort, right? These characteristics make people look up to him with admiration, right? So you are the standard bearer for the company. People are always watching you, so keep that in mind. This gives them motivation they need to achieve their own goals. Another outstanding bad leadership characteristic is acting unethical, right? Don't ever do anything to question your integrity legally, morally. Always do the right thing. A bad leader produces negative results from his lack of ethics, right? This makes him or her unable to lead and inspire others. Our whole purpose is to inspire others. Bad listener. If you're a bad listener, you have to work on that, okay? The ear of the leader must ring with the voices of his people. I love that quote. Woodrow Wilson. Communication is the fundamental basis of any partnership, right? Listening to the views and suggestions of your employees or your soldiers will enable a leader to make better decisions about the team, the project under development, and the organization. So I'll tell you right now, some of the best ideas or ways to solve problems have always come from the lower levels. They're the ones that are actually in the trenches getting it done, right? We all know we have the commander's intent. We give our guidance, our directives, and so forth. But if a private has a better way to solve a problem or get something done, empower him, all right? Let him put in a situation to make choices, right? Not listening is one of the leadership weaknesses that most affects the team. You have to be able to listen to your subordinates, all right? You have to. Bad leaders don't listen to others, at least not as often as they should. All leadership management should include this, but these kinds of leaders do not give importance to it, and at the same time they ignore what the team has to say. Take the feedback, positive and negative, from your team, okay? You have to get out there, know your soldiers. Blaming others. I think this is one thing that we all have to work on, all right? Difficulties mastered are opportunities won. Winston Churchill. So each leader must take command of the group, right? Proposing solutions to problems, helping others to improve their work. Blaming others is bad leadership characteristic that demonstrates the incompatibility management of a work team. A bad leader does not instead of showing support, helping to improve, and proposing useful solution, right? So you have to be able to provide some type of insight, output, whatever you want to call it, to actually solve problems and issues. No matter what the final result of a project is, you will always focus on the mistakes that were committed in the process. So we have to keep in mind, we got to get out of that, right? So even if mistakes are made, there's always something we can learn and draw from that. That's why I think, AARs are extremely important, and I know it's etched in our brain, what was supposed to happen, what did happen, what are some sustainments, what are some improvements, where's your recommendations, which that's the format they gave us. But like I said, you have to be able to take your wins and losses and expand and grow on them. Alright? Lack of commitment to leadership. When you're constantly blaming others, there's a lack of commitment to you, right? Loyalty, respect, dignity, we need to earn that. Yes, everyone respects the rank, but you have to respect the person, and that has to be earned. No empathy. I think this one right here is what gets most leaders and first sergeants in trouble a lot, right? To manage yourself, use your head. To manage others, use your heart. So you have to be approachable. You have to show that you're human too, right? So like every member of your staff, there is a human being who feels and thinks for himself or herself, right? It's true. All true leaders understand through empathy. This is the only way to help each member of the team to reach higher levels of success. Lack of empathy is not only a leadership weakness, but also a human weakness too. You have to work on that. You have to show empathy. A bad leader does not put himself in the subordinate's shoes. A lot of times, we all have years and years of experience in the military. A lot of times when a soldier comes in your office, or there's certain issues you're dealing with, a lot of us have been in that soldier's shoes. Don't forget that. Forget what we felt like when we were going through a certain problem, a certain circumstance. All right, we have to be able to do that. And one thing that we can't do is we can't judge their mistakes. Do not care to understand or listen to them. Right? Yes, standards and discipline is extremely important, but we have to be able to understand their mistakes. Lack of empathy also prevents the leader from providing real solutions to the problem and low productivity and demotivation. Talk about the micromanager, right? So, never tell people how to do things. Tell them what to do and they will surprise you with their ingenuity. So, you have to empower your squad leaders, your platoon sergeants, right? Empower them. Micromanagement is the attempt to supervise and control every aspect of the company, work team, and even your employees or soldiers, right? It's another bad leadership characteristic. It builds the trust to the team's ability to do a good job, right? A leader who does not trust his team does not trust his leadership skills either. Keep that in mind. They want everything to be done their way. Like I was saying, there's always more than one way to tackle a problem and get a solution. Under this criteria, they take away responsibilities from their subordinates, right? This limits them, preventing them from improving their performance and growing on their own, right? So, yes, checkers check, but it doesn't mean we have to micromanage, and A through Z has to be done our way. Lack of vision and focus, right? You can only move forward if you look far ahead. There's only room for progression when you think big. So success involves changing, improving, and stepping out of your comfort zone at all times. I'll tell you right now, I'm currently in an infantry battalion. I am way out of my comfort zone. Being a FSC first sergeant is taking a lot of work for me to step out of my comfort zone and get to know my fellow other first sergeants and what they do, what their day-to-day is and how their certain MOSs function, right? You have to be able to step out of your comfort zone, right? And it gives me the big picture. The lack of these qualities in a leader is undoubtedly leadership's weakness, right? You have to have a vision, you have to have a focus. It causes them to not make long-term plans that allow everybody to improve. Lack of focus also creates confusion and demonstrates poor leadership, right? You have to be able to stay focused, aside from the inability to follow the objectives or establishing a plan. Let's talk about lack of respect, right? I'm a firm believer that once you lose respect, it's very hard, or dang near impossible to ever get it back, right? So leadership calls for respect. Followers will not respect a leader who does not grade high on all factors of the pleasing personality, right? Overstepping members' limits in the worst leadership characteristics, right? You have to be able to show your subordinates respect. A bad leader does not hesitate to do so when he disrespects his team members, right? So what I mean by that, there's ways to go in about correcting a soldier, correcting an NCO without dehumanizing him or losing his respect, right? Lack of humility and self-awareness traits of someone who will lose his temper when something goes wrong, making them aggressive and arrogant, right? Don't lose your temper, right? I know when I was a young soldier, if you came at me and you started screaming, cussing at me, like, I tuned you out. It was always Roger Sergeant, Hula Sergeant, Hula First Sergeant, but you lost me, right? There's ways to do that, to reach people at the lowest levels without having to curse, without having to scream and yell, stomp the ground, right? That's toxic. We have to get rid of that in our ranks. Respect is the key to everything. All right, behind a good work team, there is the willingness to listen and take into account the opinions of each member with mutual respect. Even if you don't agree with someone, still respect their opinions. Find some common ground and work it out. Let's talk about self-awareness. You have to look at who you are, trying to know yourself, which is the most difficult knowledge you can imagine. Another leadership weakness is the lack of self-awareness, okay? Bad leaders tend to behave inappropriately, breaking cultural norms, work ethics, questioning your morals, your integrity, right? Number one thing I can tell you right now for that is like NCOs. If you have NCOs drinking with soldiers on the weekend, stop it. It's wrong, right? We have to maintain standards and discipline. They are aware of the impact and consequences of their actions of the team and company, right? This characteristics also does not allow bad leaders to identify flaws in their management, nor correct them to improve the team's performance. You have to be aware. If you know you have a soldier or you yourself have a certain weakness in a certain area, you need to get in the regulations, get in the manuals, educate yourself, self-development, self-improvement, right? We expect the same thing from all the people that work under us. We have to be able to set the example. Let's talk about lack of adaptability and flexibility, okay? Great leaders find ways to connect with their people and help them reach their full potential, right? Leading people implies having an open mind to listen, observe, consider different points of view, perspective, and ways of being. Everyone is valuable and has something different to contribute to the team. I think this is huge. I like to do a lot of NCO PDs and professional development with my NCOs and my soldiers, right? So one thing that I start my NCO PDs with, or anytime I'm doing some professional development, is I'll call that soldier by name and I'll tell them what you bring to the fight, what you contribute to the team, right? Another bad leadership characteristic is being inflexible with team members, right? A bad leader is inflexible, does not adapt to plan or mode collective collaboration, okay? It's a team effort. We have to be able to look at that. You must do what he says or else you are out, right? You have to be flexible. My day-to-day operations change, I swear, by the minute sometimes. But you have to build in flexibility and adaptability. Success is achieved by orienting the strengths and qualities of all members towards one target or one goal. So what I mean by that is each squad, every person on that squad, your NCOs, they all have their strengths, they all have their weaknesses, right? And I know we seem to focus more on their strengths and put them in this position, put them in that position. But there's nothing saying that we can't take someone that's strong in one area and team them up with a battle buddy that's weak in another to actually mold, mentor, coach, teach, and develop those skills that they're going to need as they progress through the ranks. As well as problem solving and correcting mistakes for overall perspective. Always taking into account or integrating the team, right? We have to be flexible. So, long ago, right? Long gone. Long gone are the days when you could adapt or adopt one leadership style your whole career. You have to be willing and accept change, right? Good leaders know when and how to adapt their leadership styles. What may work for one soldier isn't going to work for another soldier. You have to be able to change your style, change your approach, and so forth. Okay, they also know their team members and understand what motivates them individually, right? So we all do, the foundational readiness days and stuff like that, where we get together and we have breakfast. We do some type of company event or team event, right? So I'm going to share that with you in a separate video, but I published the foundational readiness day, or what topics we talk about, and icebreakers, and before we start any session, right, we talk about one of these icebreakers. And one of the first icebreakers I ever talked about, and this happened right after the Fort Hood incident, is what motivates you? Why do you get up in the morning? What is the one thing that motivates you to give your best, right? And you'd be surprised what soldiers say, right? Like I said, in today's world, nothing says bad leadership more than an unwavering authoritarian boss, right? I got it. We're in authority. We're in a position of authority. However, we have to stay level-headed. Let's talk about poor communication skills. The art of communication is the language of leadership. Communication is not only about conveying our points of views, but it's also listening, right? Communicating is a two-way street. All right, it's about dialogue, not only during conflict circumstances, but when communicating policies, procedures, developing new work strategies. Poor communication is one of the worst traits of bad leader. You have to be able to communicate. I know for me, my battle buddy is my company commander. Everything I know, he knows, right? So we're never out of sync. He has his intent. I execute his intent. But at the same point, we have what our core values are and how we communicate. Every day we think probably 5-6 times a day, talk about what's going on. Hey, I got this issue going on. And I understand when I was younger, a young sergeant, I always fell into that category as, this is NCO business. But when I got to a company leadership level, I realized that that's not true, right? It's everybody's business. It's the commander's business, right? And I don't mean everybody's business, You have to keep things to where they need to be at. Like, no one has to know everybody's business, but your battle buddy needs to know what you know. Same thing with platoon sergeants, platoon leaders. You guys should be on the same page, right? Many do not express themselves clearly, do so inappropriately, and some even communicate at all, right? It doesn't matter how good or experienced leader you are. You have to be able to communicate. A leader unable to communicate with his team will not be able to lead, motivate, or enable his team members and projects to succeed, right? So keep that in mind. More about poor communication, right? Leaders need to be able to effectively communicate in various ways, right? A person with poor communication skills cannot effectively share the company's goals, mission, or strategy to achieve them. So when we get the brigade, the battalion's vision, their policy, our company's policy, you need to sit down with your subordinates and share your visions for the organization so that the lowest level understands this is why we do this. Being able to communicate effectively both verbally and in writing is a must for any leader. Like, I'm a firm believer everyone out there needs to go to college. Take some writing classes, something. This, I don't know how to put it, but there's a huge need and lack in the Army for writing. And I'm not just talking about awards and NCORs, I'm talking about email etiquette. Just basic writing skills. We need to be able to do that. Alright, so focuses on features rather than performance. Ineffective, right? So leadership is the ability to get extraordinary achievement from ordinary people. A leader must recognize priorities and balance a set of qualities that will drive the team to success. Ineffective leaders focus more on the features of a product, service, strategy than is effective in performance, right? So demonstrate their incompetence and does not make them a good role model, right? We have to be able to do this. They tend to believe that power is everything. Power is not everything, right? You've been put in power because someone has trusted you with that power or that authority, but it doesn't mean overstep it. When what really matters is the ability to guide others to perform their best. So let's talk about rationalizing and unethical conduct, right? Doesn't matter how smart or talented a leader is. If you rationalize bad behavior from themselves or others, you are doomed for failure. Like I was saying, the eyes are always on the first sergeant. You have to do what's right every minute of the day. You got to set the example for others to follow, and you'll be surprised at the outcome. When they see that the top is doing the right thing, it's all going to come rolling downhill. Alright? It ain't easy to fall into unethical business practices because some of the short-term gains always catch up with them, right? What I mean by that is, don't take the easy road. Take the correct road, man. It may be a little bit harder and a little more work on the front end, but on the back end it's going to pay off. Inability to create or conform to a company culture. I think this is extremely important, right? Creating the right company culture serves to empower and uplift teams. You have to build your company culture. You have to motivate. You have to enable your people to want to come to work, enjoy what they do. All right, you have to be all in and dedicated. You cannot be half-assing doing your job as a first sergeant. You have to be all in. It has company-wide implications and is not embraced and utilized by leaders. There will be a negative effect at all levels of the unit and command. Right? You have to buy into the culture. You have to be willing to change the culture. Don't be the NCO or first sergeant that, well, this is the way it's always been. No, you have to adapt. Let's talk about unpredictability, okay? So, unpredictable leaders, I think, are the worst, right? This can take many forms, right? A team needs to be able to predict what the boss wants in order to have any kinds of success of doing their jobs. So what I mean is, as you build your relationship, they're going to know what satisfies you, what your expectations are, what your goals, admirations are, right? So keep that in mind. Without it, they will be forced into a system of micromanagement. Like I said, A through Z, do it this way, step by step by step. Wrong answer. Empower your platoon sergeants, empower your squad leaders. Having to okay every decision for fear of reprisal is a failure of leadership. Your leaders should never be afraid to make a decision. Alright? They should not have to worry about coming to you for every single decision and fear reprisal if it doesn't go for what you wanted, right? Like I said, a lot of stuff is solved at the squad leader and platoon level. But you got to be able to give them power. You got to trust your leaders to make those type of judgments. Unpredictability, like I was talking about, okay? Employee may need a sense of stability in order to feel safe, right? They have your soldiers, your employees, whatever you want to call them, the people, they have to be able to feel safe when making a decision. Alright, finally, people who say they or do things without thinking first make poor leaders. Right? You have to think about the decisions you're making, because in the end, you're altering someone's course in life, course that they're on, or road they're on. The bottom line is sending mixed signals is one of the bad leadership qualities that will doom you from failure. Talk about being self-centered, right? Besides being miserable to be around, self-centered people make poor leaders, right? If a leader is self-centered, they will take credit for the success and place blame on others. You can't be self-centered. You have to stay level-headed. You can never, ever forget where you came from. Eventually, this leads to your soldiers and leaders becoming demoralized and will lead to the destruction of your company. Let's talk about the know-it-all, right? So, know-it-all, right? Good leaders know just how much they don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. There's a lot of stuff I don't know, but like I was telling you about, my network, my support group, I'm able to reach out and say, hey, I'm going through this right now. I'm not really sure what course of action I should take. What do you recommend? Have you ever seen this? Right? And you'd be surprised. When you get a bunch of your peers together, there's a lot of knowledge and years and years of experience. And someone may have been through that before. They can assist you through that. You have to network. They have no desire to be right or even the smartest person in the room, right? Like, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I want to give out accurate information. I want to report accurately. I'm not there to just blow someone's, smoke up someone's butt. I want to give them the correct answers. Good leaders know who and when to ask for advice. I'm the first to tell you, if I don't know something, I'm on the phone, I'm in the regulations, I'm in the manuals trying to figure out before I actually provide a soldier the advice. Know-it-alls, on the other hand, rarely take advice or even input from others than a superior, right? Don't be that guy. You don't know everything. It is impossible to know everything. They do not take advantage of the huge amount of knowledge and talent that's available to them. Use your sergeant majors. You'd be surprised. Look, I know we're an NCO Corps, but some of these officers coming through the ranks right now are pretty intelligent. Get with them. Get with the platoon leaders, the platoon sergeants, your fellow first sergeants, all that. Not focused on the soldier, okay? A leader must be focused on the soldiers at all levels. Our business is people. They need to know exactly who they're serving, what their needs are, and how the leadership can work to fulfill those needs better, right? So if you have soldiers that are happy at home, their families are happy, they're going to produce for you, right? We have to be able to solve their problems and give them what they need. Not always be what they want, but give them what they need, all right? If you as a leader in your organization isn't focused on the people and family, you can be assured that you're building a bad climate and a culture for your unit. Not forward thinking, okay? Being satisfied with is never a good thing for a leader. It signifies that you are more concerned about surviving than growing and thriving, okay? This goes back to what I was saying about this is the way it's always been, right? Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone and change things and grow and thrive your organizations. Good leaders are forward thinkers and keep their soldiers and leaders at the tip of the spear and with change and innovation. Alright, so like I was saying, those are just your basic tips of things to watch out for and ask yourself as you're either in a first sergeant position or getting ready for a first sergeant position, or even if you're a platoon sergeant, right? These are just some of the key points that I wanted to make that I've seen throughout my career and things that I've used to try to help make me successful. So, hope y'all like this video. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you guys for all your support. And as always, go Ordnance.